Way back in December of 2011, several American All-Star players formed a team called Chicks Dig ELO. They needed a one-nationality team that could compete in the 2011 World Cyber Games. Reginald and Expecial of TSM, St. Vicious and Chowster of CLG, and Dyrus of Epic Gamer. It was a meme, but a very good meme. They'd win the event and in the process look like one of the best teams in the world. This makeshift team with a joke name may have been the closest North America has ever been to being number one in the world. Okay, that's an exaggeration. North America has had stronger moments and stronger teams. Team Liquid at MSI 2019, TSM at the IEM Season 9 World Championship, or even 2010 and 2011 CLG all come to mind. But North America does have a lackluster history at international events. Even a diehard North America fan would tell you that. Winning Worlds? North America hasn't even made a grand finals yet. North America has made 2 finals at MSI, a pretty nice achievement, but it's hard to forget that they got outclassed both times they made it there. But hey, you could say the same for EU at Worlds. Banter aside, North America has the worst international record of any major region in League of Legends, aside from the LMS. And even that's debatable depending on how you weigh Season 2 Worlds. However, North America is consistent. The region tends to get one team out of groups at Worlds, and usually makes it out of groups at MSI. North America doesn't look like it's seriously deteriorating as a region either. Team Liquid's 2019 MSI run and Cloud9's 2018 Worlds run are close to the best that North America has ever done. If anything, it looks like North America is stuck. Not good enough to rival the big 3 of EU, Korea, and China, but clearly better than the rest. So why is North America stuck in this spot? Why does the region struggle more than some of the others? And most importantly, should we expect North America to win Worlds one day? First, let's talk about the 3 major problems that keep North America lagging behind: population, esports and gaming culture, and player opportunities. All 3 problems are intricately interconnected, to the point where they often make the other 2 problems worse. Population means a lot for sports and how successful they become. Basketball, for example, is a great city sport because it's compact. A regulation basketball court is 94 by 50 feet, or for non-American viewers, that's 28.7 by 15.2 meters. A standard American football field, by contrast, is 360 by 160 feet, or 91 by 49 meters. That difference in space is partly why there's an increasingly popular National Basketball League in China. But there's not really an American Football League. While China is a huge country, it's also population dense, meaning most of its population is concentrated in small spaces. So, space is a commodity, and basketball takes up less room. Population density and distance is pretty vital to understanding esports as well. In League of Legends and a lot of other PC esports, population density is an advantage, and that's because of ping and servers. If you've even scratched the surface of the discussion surrounding North America, then you already know about the ping issue. But if you don't, here's the quick brush up. Ping is shorthand for latency, or how long it takes information to travel to a server. The lower the ping, the lower the latency, the quicker the information reaches the server and the server actualizes that info in-game. The lower the physical distance between the computer and the server, the lower the ping. 1 unit of ping is just 1 millisecond, and there are 1,000 milliseconds in a second. So, you don't need a super low ping environment for a game to be playable. Under 100 ping is good enough. Under 40 ping is actually good, and under 20 is where you want to be as a competitor. Competitors demand such a low level of ping because they need to simulate what the game plays like on local connection where there's little to no ping. The milliseconds matter more to competitors because of how reaction times work in high-level competitions. Top competitors don't use simple reaction times like what you'd find at Human Benchmark. Instead, they are trained reaction times based off of scenarios they see often. For example, flashing a Malphite ultimate or pulling off an insect. Both cases require timing a flash in reaction to something. In the case of Malphite, it's the ultimate animation starting, and in the case of the insect, it's Lee Sin's Q animation finishing. Nailing this timing means repeating these scenarios again and again. If you practice in a higher ping environment, you're practicing with added milliseconds that won't be there in a low ping environment, and so maybe you don't flash at all. But ping doesn't justify all of North America's mechanical misplay, and most pros will say it's not the main thing holding North America back. But ping matters because it's discouraging. Playing a game on high ping often feels less fun because the game is less responsive and less fast. In fact, it's one of the reasons why Evil Genius's jungler, Svenskeren, doesn't like or play as much NA solo queue for practice. On the Crackdown, Svenskeren said, "The ping is just really terrible. I'm in LA and I'm playing 53 ping, which is like the absolute best you can get. People in Korea play with 8 ping. But North America is bound to have these ping issues in no small part due to its population density. The US in particular is one of the least population dense countries in the world, and its population centers are very far apart. So getting low ping is pretty tough. This is even tougher given that internet service providers, ISPs, won't always route a direct connection either. So even if you were only 8 ping away, your ISP may route your information to another server 30 ping away, which then routes back to the Riot server, now 38 ping away, because that is sometimes cheaper. Riot has worked directly with companies to fix this ISP issue, but it can still be an issue, especially for competitors and streamers, especially in North America, where ISPs are often under-regulated regional monopolies that you have to deal with. And even if ISPs weren't an issue, population density still would be. The only artful answer to the problem would be multiple servers, like in Europe or China. But the trouble here is that North America lacks the player base. Even if Riot wanted to spend the money on a second server, they'd be splitting an already small player base, increasing queue times for everyone. And guess what else is the problem with high-level NA solo queue? That's right, queue times. If you're wondering why your favorite streamer keeps literally smurfing, it's probably the queue times. They don't want the multiple thousand viewer drop that happens when they sit in a challenger queue for over half an hour. In the same segment on the Crackdown, Svenskeren admitted that he'd smurfed simply because he could get many more games in. This is part of why streamers tend to snap during their smurf streams. Many of them would rather play in their elo, but they lose money doing that. So Riot can't easily fix ping without causing issues elsewhere. However, it's not all ping and population density. It's also esports and gaming culture. Despite having a high population density, Japan isn't a leader in PC-based esports. Instead, they're a leader in console-based and arcade esports. That's because of the culture. Japan and the US both culturally favor console esports, not PC esports. You can see this in fighting games, where the best competitors most often come from Japan or the US, and yes, Korea too. This is true of console shooters as well. Competitive Halo was one of the great early esports, and American players excelled at it. The same goes for Call of Duty. You can also see this in console sales by region, where North America often buys the most consoles, and Japan buys nearly as many as Europe, which is crazy given the difference in population. It's hard to say exactly what makes a place lean towards consoles or PCs. Some of it can be explained by net cafe or PC bong culture. At first glance, it may seem more fun to play on a home PC than at a net cafe, but net cafes have tons of advantages, like a top-of-the-line PC attached to top-of-the-line internet with all champions already unlocked. You're surrounded by more competitive players. It's easier for high elo players to bond, share knowledge, and even form teams. Plus, it's a guilt-free grind. Many pro players recount skipping class or even studies to go to the net cafe, something North American players can't really do. The end result is that North America isn't as invested in PC games. What player-based North America does have doesn't always take the game seriously, even at the highest level. Streamers and pros commonly run into trolling, inting, and raging. These big names also commonly target players less for actually inting and more for being put off-role, in too high an elo, or in a bad spot. This is super common with one-tricks, a feature of the North American ladder. If they're banned out or put on another role, they perform badly, as you would expect. And it's not too hard to ban them out, because the true challenger population is pretty small. So banning based on who's in queue isn't tough. Riot could expand challenger matchmaking to include more lower-ranked players to reduce queue times, but this reduces game quality. The result is that North American solo queue becomes much more frustrating and toxic at a high elo, and also very suboptimal practice for the professionals. North America does have practice alternatives to solo queue, like scrim blocks. However, scrims come with their own problems, as teams will often discourage experimentation, which they see as less practical to prepare for. Cloud9's ADC Sven mentioned that some teams refuse to scrim Cloud9 given both how hard Cloud9 won and Cloud9's unconventional picks. Team in-houses are an option, but with COVID-19 going on, we can easily see why they aren't a great idea right now. They also are not a replacement for solo queue. Good solo queue is good for professionals, but it's much, much better for amateurs and semi-pros. The greatest talents of any region come up through solo queue. Players like Jackie Love and The Shy even started off as one-trick streamers. Seriously, good quality solo queue is vital for player development. Bad solo queue leads to yet another destructive cycle, where the top-level pros play less solo queue since it's inefficient. Since the top-level pros play less, a high rank is less meaningful. Since a high rank is less meaningful, talented new players don't play as often or as seriously. And from there, the already weak competitive culture of North America gets even weaker. This all feeds into the third and final problem: talent scouting. North America does have a decent talent pipeline. Tactical, the LCS's rookie of the split, did well in solo queue and then got picked up for a semi-pro North American competition called the Upsurge League, or UPL. From there, he qualified for Scouting Grounds, got picked up for TSM Academy, then went to Team Liquid Academy, then got the starting spot. However, it's all too common that teams don't take talent from the talent pipeline. Rather, they import established players or even rookies. In 2020, we saw this backfire tremendously with 100 Thieves Ryoma and Immortals Eika. It's easy to attack both Immortals and 100 Thieves since they both performed poorly this year. But if you look at North America's current best two mid laners, they were both scouted and recruited from Europe. The picture isn't any better when you take a wider view. Only 6 out of the 15 players on NA's top 3 teams are homegrown talent. Over half were imported at one point or another. It's easy to blame teams and orgs for not recruiting North American players, but it's also easy to see why they do it, especially when you consider press. 100 Thieves coach Kelsey Moser recently called the region out for not supporting NA players enough, leading to more imports. And she's honestly got a point. The LCS is an entertainment industry, and many of the LCS teams have sponsors and stakeholders that they need to please. The best way to do that is to build a team that fans will watch and engage with. And the best way to get quick hype and discussion in the media is through importing, not bringing up domestic players. Even Tactical, who became one of the best teamfighting AD carries in the league in his rookie year, gets less attention than many of the imported talents around him. And not just in his own team, but also in others, like FBI on Golden Guardians. To make matters worse, North American fans themselves don't value solo queue very highly. So if a player does perform badly, there's no other benchmark to judge them on. If you watched our video about The Shy, you know that he got destroyed in his first stage game. However, there was some trust that he was still good because he ranked high in Korean and Chinese solo queue. The same trust does not exist towards North American solo queue, and that makes it even harder for homegrown talent to break through and stay relevant. In turn, many North American players won't try as hard because League isn't a viable career path for them. It just doesn't make as much sense for amateurs to put their everything into League when it's much less likely that they'll get anything from it. Europe, China, and Korea all have much bigger development leagues and better opportunities for players, like EU Masters and the Demacia Cup. So amateurs and semi-pros have more reason to try hard. Even if they don't make Fnatic's lineup, like Nemesis and Selfmade, they could make money on a regional team, like Nemesis and Selfmade did before they were on Fnatic. But North America struggles to justify those kinds of leagues and competition because, well, it lacks the player base and culture. And now we're back to square one. North America is caught in some pretty rough cycles and has some very hard to fix problems. So what should League fans everywhere expect of North America? Could this region ever win Worlds? The short answer is yes. The long answer is yes, but don't expect it to ever be consistent. North America can win Worlds much in the same way that a small or medium market team can win an NBA title. If you don't know about basketball, basically the NBA has 2 types of teams, small and big market. Big market teams come from cities with big media markets like Los Angeles, Boston, Chicago, or New York. Small market teams come from smaller cities with less press, like Indianapolis, Memphis, and Minneapolis. There are lots of teams somewhere in the middle too, like San Antonio. In basketball, the smaller your market, the harder it is to win a championship. In fact, research from Patrick Adler showed that no city with a population under 2 million people in the metropolitan area ever won an NBA title. The NBA is over 70 years old, and a full 25% of its teams come from cities under that 2 million benchmark. The struggles that small markets face are kind of like what North America faces. They have trouble building teams on their own, they can't attract the same level of talent as other teams, even if they spend a lot, and while they're often good enough to make playoffs or even make a deep run, they tend to get outclassed by the big names on the big market teams. However, it's not hopeless for the small market teams. San Antonio is notably just a hair above that 2 million mark at 2.25 million. The Spurs aren't really a big market team, but they've achieved big market success. And they've done it through clever scouting, great coaching, and some of the best team infrastructure. Similarly, small market teams have come close to a championship, and many big market teams have collapsed so hard that they've been bad for years. All this is to say that North America probably should win Worlds at some point. It'll take a superb team, a superb coach, and a superb system. It may even take other regions falling apart at the right moment. But these things do happen. Korea totally collapsed at the 2018 Worlds because they misread the meta. In that space, North America climbed to the semifinals. Europe totally collapsed at 2014 Worlds when Alliance infamously got kaboomed, letting Cloud9 escape groups more easily.
This is for kaboom! This is for kaboom!
China collapsed at next year's Worlds in a bizarre turn where former royal support Tabe leaked a bunch of strategic information on live broadcast and was blamed very heavily for the fall of China.
There's also other two secret weapons. There's
well, let's not give away all their secret weapons.
I don't think that's everything, but you get the point. China went boom. And Europe, Korea, and China all fell apart at the IEM World Championship, allowing for TSM to win the entire event. This victory often gets discredited since TSM only had one match against a Korean team, but TSM genuinely did well that tournament. And at the 2019 Midseason Invitational, Team Liquid completely outperformed Invictus Gaming in a massive upset. We downplay this now as IG getting overconfident, but that IG squad had just steamrolled not only the LPL, but the MSI group stages. Team Liquid had functionally beaten the top-ranked team in the world at the time. North America has big moments, even with its flaws. Similarly, other regions have their bad moments, even with their strengths. So as long as League stays healthy, you should expect North America to pick up some big international wins, and even an international trophy or two. You just shouldn't expect them to get as many Summoner Cups as EU, China, or Korea will. I know, it is a little bit disappointing given the North American and European rivalry, but NA just isn't built for PC gaming, and Europe is. That said, there are also a few things that Riot, LCS teams, and even North American fans could do to close the gap a little. First, Riot and LCS teams could build up amateur leagues like the UPL. These leagues could make transitioning into professional play easier and allow for more high-level players to make a living. Riot is already partially doing this through collegiate esports. However, larger events with a wider structure could go an even longer way, like a North American Masters tournament, or even a Demacia Cup-styled event where LCS teams compete with other NA teams, be it collegiate, academy, or UPL. In terms of improving solo queue, Riot could return to giving awards for making Challenger and holding spots within the top 10 for a certain period. Physical items like Challenger backpacks may be a challenge, but free and unique in-game rewards could be great incentives too. LCS teams could add their own incentives to rankings as well, offering tryouts, scouting grounds invitations, streaming press, or even cash bounties to the highest ranked free agents. And North American fans themselves can encourage better solo queue habits by sticking with streamers who wait on long Challenger level queues, and by putting a bit more weight on solo queue rank. And no, that does not mean attacking a pro player on social media for having a lower rank. It means recognizing players with high rank and acknowledging that even in North America, getting into Challenger is a big accomplishment. Combine all of these things together, and in the coming years, North American players may take high-level League more seriously. Seriously enough to build a player base big enough to maybe accommodate 2 servers. Probably not, but serious enough to build a culture of winning, a world of opportunity, and opportunity for more Worlds wins.